Hey, if you're enjoying Hooks and Ladders, and why wouldn't you be enjoying Hooks and Ladders? Be sure to like and subscribe, follow us on social media, and hey, head on over to songstudio.ca to check out what we're up to. If you sign up for our mailing list, you'll be the first to know everything that's coming up and everything special that we got going on at SongStudio. You won't regret it. Hey, welcome to Hooks and Ladders. What you're about to see is part of what we did at the SongStudio workshop in Toronto in July 2022. There'll be lots more to see. We're just going to roll it out a little bit at a time. So sit back and enjoy. And if you want to know more about SongStudio, visit www.songstudio.ca and check us out. Enjoy.
John, you had a question.
Yeah, you just mentioned in the context of promoting something, say you want something in the UK or something that you would hire a publicist to. Actually, I have a friend who's like an independent photographer, and he has to exhibit on, and he hired a publicist for this, and it sounds like it's done really, really well. So he's got all kinds of TV radio spots, like just releasing reviews, stuff like that. So if somebody doesn't have a manager or doesn't have a manageable career, like I expect to have, would it be, say if I was getting around to doing a release or something that I was really believed in and I wanted people to know about it, would hiring a publicist be?
Yeah.
What would that?
Well, the thing is part of your manager's job is to help you assemble a team that is appropriate to what you're doing, right? So if you have a label, they have all those people working there, so you can work with the label's team. But if you don't have a label, and most people don't have a label, like 95% of people don't have a label or an opportunity for that unless something starts happening for them. And also labels are, look back the time we're talking about with the Pursuit of Happiness and Crash Dummies, there was a middle class, right, where labels were interested in the middle class, and they were interested in maybe that could bump up or whatever. Now they're only interested in top of the pops, right? They're only interested in that. And that's cool because they know what their expertise is and they're working on that. But then there's a lot of independent people. Many of them worked at record labels. So there's two things to do on the publicist side. A, hire a publicist and find somebody don't hire them too soon though, because they're on the clock. So once you hire them, their 3 months or whatever is going to be over. And if you're not ready for them to start at the time they start, you wasted the time, right? And that can be challenging, and challenging even at a higher level, because suddenly you're hiring like a big publicist that costs a lot of money. If you delayed your release date by a couple of weeks, well, they're not delaying anything. No, they got hired. So they might not work, but you need to hire them for an extra month or something. So you want to make sure you know what you want a publicist for. And then hiring the publicist that's appropriate to what you want to do. So hiring a national publicist to cover a local show might not be the right thing to do. And then also, one of the things I always like to think about whenever I'm going to hire somebody to do, and I hire lots of people to do things, to supply things that I don't have time to do and the artist doesn't have time to do or whatever. Publicity is one of them. But what I think is like, okay, where do we want publicity? Well, we want to get on, we're doing a show in Toronto where we'd like Metro Morning to mention it on CBC and hopefully play a song. So I'm like, well, I can make my own press release and send to the people at CBC, which CBC, because we own it, lists who to contact right on their website. So it's very easy. And then it's like, well, what about the Toronto Star? Now, I know the guy at the Toronto Star that I would call. His name's Nick Cruitt. And what's his email? octopus@rogers.com. But Nick Cruitt is a great guy. But also there's lots of great people there. And so if you read the Toronto Star, so don't contact any press that you wouldn't pay attention to yourself, because they're not going to really be helpful to you, because obviously people that like the kind of music you make don't read that or listen to it. Right. But if there's something you follow, then contact that person. And if you're a fan of theirs in some way, or they brought you great music, then that's a good person to talk to, because you can share that with them, that I've followed your column, I found out about this from it, and here's the thing. And you could write them your own cover letter and send your own press release. And like Blair was saying, Don't send them MP3s, but send them a page of links. It's really easy to put together your page of links now, and we have tools for it and everything like that. Whether it's like there's a million of them, but the set of links. And I was going to mention them all, but then I couldn't think of all of them. Only Linktree came to mind. I don't even use Linktree. I use different ones, but I use whatever one comes to me at the time.
Right.
And and try everything on the tech side of things. Try everything. I think I've told you the story before, but Jonathan Coulton. Did I tell you about Jonathan Coulton?
I think so, but
he's a singer-songwriter.
Oh yeah, you did, but I want
So quickly digress into this because his advice is try everything.
Yeah.
And he was a computer programmer living in Brooklyn in 2002, 3. Most expensive possible time to be living in Brooklyn. And his wife is pregnant. She has a baby, and he's really a singer-songwriter. He's not really a computer programmer. And he looks like he should be in, a fan of Fish. He doesn't look like he could be in Fish. He looks like he could be a fan of Fish. He's like a white guy with freckles and curly red hair. And if somebody had said, "Hey, you should manage this guy," and I looked at his picture, I'd be like, "No, I'm not going to manage him." And then, though I'd say that about everybody.
I was going to say you'd say that about anybody.
But the thing is, but Jonathan looked at his new baby, 20 years ago. His baby was 20 now.
Wow.
He looked at his
Like my
baby,
baby.
and he said, "I can't let you down. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm not a computer programmer. I'm going to quit my job."
Right.
Like he just had a baby and he lives in Brooklyn. His rent's $2,500 a month,
Yeah.
And
in those dollars.
yeah. And then so of course he has to tell his wife that she has to go back to work because he's going to be a singer-songwriter.
Right.
And so she goes, he probably took some kind of parental leave. She has to go back to work after her parental leave. And he has a little tiny apartment. He has a little closet. And he puts his iMac in there with the camera on it. And he writes and records a song a week. He made this up. This didn't exist, I don't think, then a 52-week project that he made up. And it caught on. But he does this thing, and this is like, there's no TikTok or anything that makes this go fast. And he does it. He writes a song and he posts it every week. He's like, he dedicated himself. He had 1 year kind of to make it with his wife and with himself.
Yeah.
And so week 6, he disappoints the baby, his wife, and himself. He can't write a song. He has writer's block, and it's Friday. And he just has nothing.
Right.
He doesn't have an idea even. And so he does a cover of Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot and posts it.
Yeah.
And just as a placeholder, really. But then somebody sees it and somebody posts it somewhere, and then he starts getting rivers of traffic coming to his site. And on his site, you could buy his songs up front, but if you dug, you could get every song for free. And then you could buy them. And he switched it around. But at that time, that was the way it was. And he starts getting traffic from everywhere because people think it's funny. So that's 2002 or 3. In 2009, after him doing all this stuff and him using tech products like Eventful used to be a thing where it was called Demanded, or Demanded was bought by Eventful. And you could put, and they still have it in some Songkick or something has it like, "I'd like to see this artist in my town." So they had this Demanded thing.
Right.
And he was doing that. And in Cleveland, he had 100 people that said they'd pay $10 to see him. So he calls up Agent Sid, who's his agent, and says, "Hey, can you get me a gig in Cleveland?" He's like, "Jonathan, you're not popular. I really can't book you anywhere, And it's like, "But you're a nice guy, and I really like you, and I like your songs, And he probably hadn't even heard "Baby Got Back, and so he's like, "Well, how about you could find me a club in Cleveland, Ohio, on their worst night of the week that holds 100 people, and I just get 0 versus the door." He's like, "Okay, let me check." He's like, "I got a club. You got a Sunday night in Cleveland." And then it sells out. And he tells all those people, it pays for him to fly from New York to Cleveland with his guitar, and he does his show. And on Monday, Agent Sid calls him. He's like, "How did you do it?" And he tells him, and he goes, and Agent Sid says, "Can we do that again? Can we do that again?" And he's like, "Yeah." If you can find the clubs, I can get the audience, and we can do it in this town and this town. And anyway, one time I met him in person. Like I got to know him a little bit used to book panels for North by Northeast, and I booked him to do a panel. And then I ran into him in Texas at South by Southwest, and he said he was there for the tech conference, not the music conference. He left the day the music conference started, and he played the tech conference, and I think he won an award or something. Anyway, he said, what I do is every single thing that comes out, if it's new, I try it. If it doesn't work, I stop using it immediately, and I keep using the things that work. Yeah. And that could apply to tech, but it could also just apply to songwriting, and it could apply to anything. Yeah. Just do the things that work. Remember the things that work, and stop doing the things that don't work.
But try the new
Try
things.
everything.
Try everything. Yeah. So that's the takeaway from this story, right? He tried something, and he was a bit desperate as well. He was backed up against the wall. So he tried everything, and then he worked with the stuff that worked.
Yeah, but
this is what you do too.
It's exactly what I do. Yeah. And it's like by the third month, though, just to give the happy ending for a story, by the third month, he was making enough money to pay the babysitter who was taking care of the baby while he was sitting in the closet, the baby that he should have been taking care of. Anyway, so, and then he started to make money. By 2009, he put out a new album, and it debuted at #1 on Billboard. And nobody in the music business had still heard of him. So just, so when people in the music business don't give you permission, remember that guy did that. He found his own audience. Right. He knew who his audience was, and he went out and found them, and got them to listen to him. He also did a Creative Commons license on his music, which is a way of creating a copyright that's different than the traditional copyright that music industry has held up for a long time. And in the Creative Commons license, you can say, like right now, if you have a normal copyright, it says you have to shut down people on YouTube that make a video of your song. But in Creative Commons, you can make any parameter you want. So his license was, anybody can use my song for anything they want, as long as they don't make money on it. And if they're going to make money on it, then they have to pay me. And I thought that was a pretty accurate thing that really was like a long time coming, because like we're all trying to get people to hear stuff. Yeah. But we're going by music industry rules that don't apply. Yeah. To getting people to hear you.
That are counterintuitive or counterproductive for getting people to hear your music.
Yeah. And now too, because we live in this new time period. Yeah. We all still want to go by the rules that we were told were the rules to make us succeed, right? You know, or to stop people from hurting us or taking our money or whatever. It's like, but if you're not making any money, who cares?
And what are you protecting?
What are you protecting, right? Yeah. So, but the thing is, get to the problem and then solve it, right? Because we're all protecting everything. Well, what if we do this? What if we show people our song? What if we do this? What if somebody steals my thing? It's like,
it's one of the first questions I get asked at songwriting seminars. How do I protect my music? And I actually think to myself, very disrespectfully, by the way, because it's usually somebody I've never met before, so I don't know anything about them. But I think nobody wants your stupid song, but only because that is the reality, though. That
you gotta make them want it.
Yeah, make them want it, and then we'll talk. Then you'll figure it out.
But have you heard that new Lou Reed demo that he mailed to himself in 1965?
No,
have you heard it?
I have a couple of those.
It just came up. Well,
my own.
So it was the old way of copywriting, the poor man's copyright, whatever, was record your song on a cassette or whatever. Probably in his case could have even been reel to reel. Who knows?
Might have been, yeah.
And so put an envelope and mail it to yourself and never open it. And then you can prove when you open it in court that you wrote that song. And I have a Jonathan Coulton song that's like the story like this too. But Lou Reed did that, and it's Waiting for the Man, which is called Waiting for My Man on the demo that's now on Spotify. Yeah. It's like, it sounds like a Bob Dylan song, and he had just met John Cale, and John Cale was helping him to record it.
Wow.
And I probably playing harmonica on it. It's like, it's really good. It's really great to listen to. But he did that. So that was the old copyright, and still would be valid today. The Jonathan Coulton story, I don't know when it happened. It could have been after he was #1. The TV show Glee had heard his version of Baby Got Back that he did in week 6 of his 52-week project so many years before. Yeah. And they were like, let's do Baby Got Back. Like, let's use this arrangement and we'll do Baby Got Back on the show, because that's like, we're all about doing these different arrangements of these popular songs. It's going to be so cool. And he did it, and then he heard it, and he was like, well, that sounds like my arrangement of it.
Right.
An arrangement's worth something.
Yeah.
And so he contacted them, and they're like, we didn't use your arrangement. We don't even know who you are. We've never heard of this.
Right.
Said Darren Star Corporation.
Yeah.
And so he was sure it was his arrangement, so he sued them. Now, it was also, if you watch The Good Wife, it's the topic of one of the episodes of The Good Wife. There's a character in it, and he sues them for a song. It's Jonathan.
And it's from the Jonathan Coulton story.
It's Jonathan Coulton's story. It's exactly a story. It is not even a joke that it's Jonathan Coulton's story. It's his exact story.
Right.
And
Wait, did he sue them for using his
No, he
story?
let them use it. He let them use it. He probably they gave him credit, and they played his song in it, and they licensed his song and everything.
Yeah.
But what happened was, and you learn from The Good Wife, and you learn from real life, that what happened was he had a duck quacking sound in it.
Okay.
And when they played it back in court, the duck quacking sound was on the Glee version in exactly the same spot. In fact, it was the duck quacking sound from his track.
Right.
So they totally rip him off. Anyway, in Good Wife he loses, but I think in real life he won, but I can't remember.
Wow, that's
anyway.
amazing,
So you can sue somebody.
Yeah,
for ripping you off.
When
if
it
you
comes
want.
to copyright infringement, that's actually your only recourse. There's no copyright police. So if somebody does steal something of yours, unfortunately, you have to resort to suing them, or at least starting with a letter, an expensive letter from a lawyer.
We hope you've enjoyed this little taste of the SongStudio workshop in Toronto in July 2022. Stay tuned for more.